The late afternoon sun filters through the living room window, illuminating dust motes dancing in the still air. It's not messy, not in the way people think. There are no piles of trash or dishes, but it is full. Every surface holds a story, every corner a monument to a life already lived. The bookshelf groans under the weight of books unread for a decade. The side table is a careful stack of photo albums, porcelain figures, and letters tied with a faded ribbon. She sits in her armchair, the silence of the house pressing in. The feeling isn't clutter, it's weight, a deep, quiet exhaustion that comes from living inside a museum of her own past. Each object is a postponed decision, a conversation she doesn't have the energy to start. Her children call it stuff, their voices gentle, but laced with a worry she can't bear to acknowledge. This is her home, but lately it feels less like a sanctuary and more like an anchor holding her in place. This isn't just about having a tidier home. That's the story we tell ourselves to make the problem feel smaller. The truth is much heavier. This accumulation of our past is a quiet, creeping threat to our future. It's the invisible architecture of dependence, built one sentimental object at a time. It's the reason a simple task feels monumental, why the thought of downsizing is paralyzing, and why one day someone else might have to make these decisions for you. This video is about dismantling that structure before it's too late. We are going to conduct an independence audit, a clear, strategic process to lift decades of emotional weight and ensure your home supports your freedom, not curtails it. We will go through 5 hidden shifts to do this, and the 5th one, which I call the independence filter, will fundamentally change how you look at every single thing you own. If protecting that independence is your priority, consider subscribing. This is a place for people who are committed to designing their next chapter on their own terms. That feeling of being frozen in place isn't a failure of will. It's a natural response to the sheer emotional gravity of your own history. Every object you pick up initiates a silent trial. The guilt of letting go feels like a betrayal, not of the object, but of the memory, the person, or the version of yourself that acquired it. That silver-plated tray from a wedding 40 years ago isn't just a tray. It's a testament to a promise, a symbol of a beginning. To discard it feels like admitting that chapter is truly over. This internal negotiation happens 100 times a day. A quiet, exhausting battle fought in the privacy of your own mind. It's why you walk into a room with the full intention of starting, only to find yourself an hour later, sitting on the floor, holding a single photograph, the energy for the task completely drained away. This is the true nature of the weight. It's not the physical clutter, but the accumulated burden of thousands of unresolved emotional decisions. This internal paralysis is compounded by an external fear, one we rarely speak aloud. It's the fear of being seen as incapable. It's the subtle shift in your children's voices from casual conversation to gentle, concerned inquiry. "Mom, do you need some help with all this?" The question, however well-intentioned, can feel like a judgment, a suggestion that you are no longer in full command of your own life. You see the future playing out, weekends where they come over not to visit, but to work on your house. You become a project, a problem to be managed. This is the quiet, creeping erosion of autonomy. The home that was once your fortress of independence, the very stage upon which you raised a family and built a life, slowly begins to feel like the evidence that will be used to argue for your dependence. The stuff is no longer just your past. It becomes a direct threat to your future control, a potential reason someone else will have to step in. Ultimately, we arrive at the most confronting truth. The state of our home becomes a mirror to the state of our mind. When every surface is covered, it reflects a life with no room for new experiences. When closets are filled with clothes for a person you no longer are, it signifies a mind clinging to a past identity. The clutter is the physical manifestation of postponed choices, of conversations we haven't had with ourselves about who we are now, and more importantly, who we want to become. It's the residue of a life lived, but it's also a barrier to the life yet to be lived. Decluttering, then, stops being about cleaning and becomes an act of profound courage. It is the decision to stop living in a museum of your own history and to start designing a launch pad for your future. The question is no longer, can I let this go? It becomes, am I willing to make space for what comes next? The trigger arrives not as a dramatic event, but in the quiet, loving concern of her son's voice over the phone. Mom, maybe I can come down next weekend. We could, get a start on some of these rooms. The offer hangs in the air, a well-intentioned kindness that lands like a verdict. After she hangs up, the silence in the house is different. It's no longer the silence of memory. It's the silence of a clock ticking. She looks at the overflowing china cabinet, the stacks of photo albums on the floor, the boxes in the corner filled with her late husband's workshop tools. For the first time, she doesn't see a life lived. She sees a project, a burden, an inheritance of unresolved decisions she is about to pass on. The weight of it all shifts from a private, internal exhaustion to a stark, public liability. The question finally lands, stripped of all excuses. If I don't do this, someone else will have to. If not now, while I still have the strength and the clarity, then when? The paralysis breaks, not with a sudden burst of energy, but with a quiet, unshakable resolve that settles deep in her bones. This will not be another failed attempt at spring cleaning. This is different. This is a strategic operation. It's not about tidying up the past. It's about securing the future. She realizes the old rules don't apply. Asking, does this bring me joy, is the wrong question, when the real issue is, does this support my independence? This is the moment the mission crystallizes in her mind. She isn't going to declutter. She is going to conduct an independence audit. A systematic review of everything that surrounds her, measured against a single non-negotiable standard. Does this object make my life lighter, safer, and more my own? This is the path forward, a clear, logical process built not on sentiment, but on self-preservation. A path defined by 5 strategic shifts that will serve as her guide, her toolkit for dismantling the weight and building a foundation for the next chapter. The first decision has been made. The first strategic shift is called the Energy Audit Rule, and it directly answers the question that paralyzes us all. Where do I even start? The common advice is to start small, but that's vague. This rule is precise. You begin not in the most emotionally charged area, like the bedroom filled with your late husband's things, but in the space that causes the most consistent, low-level daily friction. It's the kitchen counter that's never clear, the coat closet that spills its contents every time you open it, or the laundry room that has become a dumping ground. Ignoring this rule means you'll likely start with the photo albums, exhaust your emotional reserves in 20 minutes, and abandon the entire project, feeling more defeated than ever. By targeting the point of highest daily irritation first, you get the largest and most immediate return on your energy investment. That small, tangible victory, a clear counter, a functional closet, provides the critical dose of momentum and proof of capability you need to continue. Helen decides her target is the front hall closet. It's not a space of deep sentiment, but it's a source of constant, grating annoyance. It's the first thing she sees when she comes home and the last thing she battles with on her way out. Forcing the door shut against a cascade of old coats, mismatched shoes, and forgotten umbrellas has become a daily ritual of frustration. She takes a deep breath, opens the door, and for the first time, she doesn't see a mess to be managed. She sees the first target of her independence audit. She pulls everything out. No sorting, no reminiscing yet, just extraction. The hallway is now chaos, but the closet is empty, a blank slate. It's the first truly empty space she has created in this house in years. In that emptiness, there isn't loss. There is a quiet, exhilarating rush of possibility. For the first time in a long time, she feels a flicker, not of overwhelm, but of control. The project has begun. Now, with the contents of the closet on the floor, she deploys the second shift, the 10-year test. This isn't about joy, it's about relevance. The question is simple and ruthless. Have I used this in the last 10 years, and will I realistically use it in the next one? This filter bypasses the treacherous what-if scenarios that keep us tethered to past identities. She picks up a heavy wool coat she wore on a trip to Chicago 15 years ago. She lives in a mild climate now. It's a beautiful coat, a memory of a different life. But it fails the test. It represents a person she no longer is and a future she is not building. To keep it is to let a past version of herself occupy precious real estate in her present. Ignoring this rule means your home remains a museum, your closets filled with costumes for roles you no longer play. Letting it go isn't a betrayal of the memory. It's an honest acknowledgement of who you are today, making space for the life you actually live. Finally, she confronts the most draining part of the process, the indecision itself. This brings us to the third shift, the one-touch decision habit. The greatest thief of energy isn't the physical labor. It's the mental churn of picking up an object, debating its fate, and then, exhausted, putting it back down to decide later. This habit creates a doom loop of postponed choices. The one-touch rule forbids this. When you pick up an item, you cannot put it down until a decision has been made. Keep, donate, or discard. There is no maybe pile, no I'll think about it corner. Helen picks up a set of guest towels, still in their original packaging, saved for a special occasion that never arrived. The old habit would be to put them back on the shelf. The new habit forces a choice. She knows she won't use them. They go directly into the donation box. The decision is made. The loop is closed. This isn't just about efficiency. It's about rebuilding the muscle of decisiveness, proving to yourself, one small object at a time, that you are still in command. The progress feels real, tangible. The closet door closes without a fight. The kitchen counter is a vast, open plain. But with this newfound space comes an unavoidable collision with the past. Helen opens a trunk at the foot of her bed, one she hasn't touched in years, and the scent of cedar and thyme fills the room. Inside are her children's first shoes, her husband's favorite sweater, a stack of letters bound in twine. The one-touch decision habit shatters against the first object she picks up, a small hand-painted wooden bird, a gift from her husband on their 10th anniversary. The memory is not a gentle wave, it's a tidal force pulling her under. The bird is not an object, it is a moment, a feeling, a promise. The thought of placing it in a donation box feels like a physical betrayal, an admission that the hand that gave it is gone forever. This is the heart of the resistance, the place where decluttering ceases to be about things and becomes a painful negotiation with grief itself. As she works through the trunk, a new, colder fear begins to surface, creeping in behind the warmth of the memories. It's the fear of the void. For years, the sheer volume of her life has filled the silence, the empty spaces left by a departed husband and grown children. These objects, heavy as they are, have been her companions. They are the proof of a life fully lived. What will be left when they are gone? An empty house echoing with loneliness. This is where she must deploy the fourth shift. The memory without the object, principle. She looks at the wooden bird again, holding it tightly. The memory isn't in the wood or the paint. It's inside her. It's in the story she could tell about that day, in the feeling of his hand in hers. The object is just an anchor, and she is carrying too many anchors. She takes a clear photograph of the bird, places it back in the trunk for one last look, and then gently sets the trunk aside for donation. She isn't discarding the memory. She is choosing to carry it inside her, where it is lighter and can never be lost. This new clarity prepares her for the final, most crucial stage of the audit. She stands before her husband's old workbench in the garage, a space that has been a silent, dusty monument for 5 years. The heavy tools, the half-finished projects, they represent his presence, his skill, his very essence. But now she applies the ultimate test, the fifth shift, the independence filter. She looks at the heavy table saw not as a memory, but as a liability. The question is no longer, what does this mean? But does this serve my future? Does this heavy, immovable object make her home safer? Does it make her life easier to manage? Does it support her independence? Or does it create a future burden for her or her children to solve? The answer is a quiet, painful, but liberating no. Keeping it isn't honoring him. It's anchoring her to a past that makes her future more precarious. She realizes that true honor lies in living her own life fully, safely, and freely. In that moment, the tools cease to be sacred relics. They become just tools, ready for a new pair of hands. The silence in the house has changed. It is no longer the heavy, oppressive silence of a museum after hours, thick with the dust of postponed decisions. It is a clean, resonant silence, the kind that holds potential. Light from the windows, once fractured by stacks of books and collections of glassware, now travels unimpeded, pooling on the clear surfaces of tables and stretching across the wooden floors. Helen walks from room to room, and for the first time in years, her movement is easy, unobstructed. She feels the shift not just in her surroundings, but in her own body. A tension she hadn't realized she was carrying in her shoulders has released. This isn't the sterile emptiness of loss. It is the expansive peace of clarity. She didn't just clear out a house. She dismantled a fortress of memory that had become a prison. She has proven to herself that she can hold a memory in her heart without needing to hold its physical anchor in her hands. This newfound space has created room for a new identity to emerge. She is no longer Helen, the widow, the keeper of relics, the woman whose children worried about her. She is Helen, the architect of her next chapter. The feeling is not one of arrogant pride, but of a deep, quiet, and unshakable confidence. Her home is no longer a testament to what was, but a functional, beautiful launch pad for what will be. It is a physical manifestation of her own resilience and foresight. When she thinks of the future now, the image is not of her children sorting through her things with weary sighs, but of herself enjoying a cup of tea in a sunlit kitchen with the freedom and mental space to plan a trip, start a new project, or simply sit and read a book without 100 objects vying for her attention. This is the true meaning of independence. Not just the ability to live alone, but the clarity to live fully. Your independence is built in small, powerful decisions like these. If you want to continue protecting it, subscribe, because this channel is designed for people who choose to stay in control after 60. The days that follow are marked by a new quality of light. The morning sun, once a harsh spotlight on dust and disorder, now spills across clean, open surfaces, filling the rooms with a warm, gentle glow. It's more than just an absence of clutter. It's the presence of peace. Helen finds herself breathing more deeply, as if the house itself has exhaled a long-held sigh of relief. The constant low-level hum of anxiety that had become the background music of her life has faded into silence. She walks through her home not as a weary museum curator, but as the master of a calm, well-ordered sanctuary. This lightness she feels isn't just in the rooms around her, it's a profound internal shift. The weight wasn't in the objects themselves, but in the thousands of postponed decisions they represented. Now, with those decisions made, her mind feels as clear and open as her living room floor. Her son visits the following weekend, and as he steps through the front door, he stops, his usual look of gentle concern replaced by one of genuine surprise and admiration. He looks around, not at what is gone, but at the space that has been revealed. "Mom," he says, his voice different, stripped of its careful, worried tone. "The house, it feels incredible. It feels like you." It is the highest compliment he could pay. She is no longer a project to be managed, a problem to be solved. In his eyes, she has transformed from the subject of his concern into the author of her own environment. They spend the afternoon talking, not about the logistics of dealing with stuff, but about his work, her plans for the garden, a new book she wants to read. The dynamic has been reset. She isn't just his aging mother. She is Helen, a capable, decisive woman who is in complete control of her life and her future. The spare bedroom, for years a mausoleum of forgotten furniture and boxes sealed with yellowing tape, is now a blank canvas. It is no longer a storage unit for a life that has passed, but a studio for a life that is still unfolding. Helen buys a simple, sturdy easel and a set of watercolor paints, something she hasn't touched since college. She positions the easel by the window, where the light is best. The first painting is clumsy, hesitant, but the act itself feels revolutionary. She is not organizing the past. She is creating something new. This room, once a symbol of stagnation, has become a place of active, joyful creation. It is the physical manifestation of the promise she made to herself, to stop curating a museum of her history and start building a launch pad for her future. The empty space was never a void to be feared, but a potential to be filled with new color, new experiences, and a new version of herself. This newfound clarity extends far beyond the walls of her home. The mental energy that was once consumed by the constant draining negotiation with her belongings is now free. It's like closing dozens of open tabs on a computer. Suddenly, everything runs faster, smoother. She finds herself more present in conversations, more engaged with the world around her. She has the mental bandwidth to plan a small trip to visit her sister, to research a local volunteer group, to simply sit on her porch and enjoy a cup of tea without the nagging, internal to-do list of a house that needed her attention. This is the hidden dividend of the independence audit. It doesn't just clear your home, it clears your mind. It liberates the most precious resource you have, your attention, and allows you to invest it not in managing the residue of the past, but in designing the architecture of your future. A few weeks later, she makes a phone call. It's to her son, but the purpose is entirely different from their conversations of the past. "I've set aside that old workbench of your father's," she says, her voice calm and confident. "I know you've been wanting to get into woodworking. If you'd like it, it's yours. I can have it delivered." There is no hesitation, no question in her voice. The power dynamic has been irrevocably altered. She is not asking for help. She is offering a gift. She is not a burden to be managed. She is a benefactor, making a clear, proactive choice about the future of her possessions. This single conversation is the culmination of her entire effort. It is the sound of autonomy reclaimed, of a legacy being mindfully curated, not haphazardly left behind. She is no longer the problem. She is the source of the solution, steering the course of her own life with a steady hand. In this process, Helen redefines what it means to leave a legacy. She realizes that the most valuable inheritance she can give her children is not a house full of antiques or a collection of heirlooms. The greatest gift is the peace of mind that comes from knowing their mother lived her final chapters with dignity, intention, and unwavering independence. Her true legacy will not be found in the boxes they would have had to sort through, but in the example she has set. It is a legacy of courage, the courage to face the past and make difficult decisions. It is a legacy of foresight, the wisdom to unburden her own future, and by extension, theirs. She is giving them the freedom to remember her for who she was, not for the things she left behind. That, she understands now, is the most profound act of love a parent can offer their grown children. She sits in her favorite armchair as the afternoon sun streams in, the same sun that once illuminated a room heavy with the past. But now it illuminates a space defined by possibility. The air is still, but it is the stillness of peace, not of stagnation. She looks around at her home, which feels both familiar and entirely new. It is a reflection of her, edited, curated, and prepared for what comes next. It is not an ending, but a beautifully cleared stage. Decluttering was never about the things. It was about answering a single fundamental question. Am I a curator of my past or the architect of my future? Her home is now her answer. It is a declaration that her story is not over. The best chapters, she feels with a quiet, unshakable certainty, are the ones she is just about to write.